Hello, good evening, and welcome to my little observatory. My name is Nitsuki Subaru, and tonight I'd like to invite you on a little walk through the March sky. Let's head out and take a look at the sky. Bundle up nice and warm, find a nice, safe and comfortable place to have a lie down, and let your eyes slowly adjust to the darkness. Take your time, it can take about 30 minutes. There's no rush tonight though. The sky has been here for billions of years, so it can wait a few more minutes for us. Tonight, we stand between seasons. The winter sky fades slowly as the signs of spring start to appear in the eastern sky. Looking eastward, you'll see the constellations of Leo climbing upward, followed later in the night by Virgo. In the western sky, something familiar is making a quiet return. Venus, which we haven't seen for a little while, is gradually gaining altitude again. High above us, near the zenith, Jupiter shines steadily. Bright, calm, and impossible to miss. March is a turning point in our sky. Behind us, the brilliant constellations of winter are beginning to descend. Ahead of us, the softer patterns of spring are rising to take their place. Tonight, we'll walk that line between seasons together. Let's start by having a look at some of the constellations of the winter sky. First, we have Orion the Hunter, one of the most recognizable constellations in the winter sky. To find him, look for the 3 bright stars in a straight line. That's Orion's belt. From the belt, look upward and slightly left to a bright reddish star. That's Betelgeuse, marking Orion's shoulder. Looking diagonally downward on the opposite side, you can find this brilliant blue-white star Rigel at Orion's foot. Now, just behind Orion, look for an extremely bright star low in the southwest. That is Sirius, the brightest star in all of the night sky. It also marks the nose of Canis Major, the greater dog. Moving upward from Sirius, we find another bright star, Procyon. This is a part of Canis Minor, the lesser dog. Together, these 2 faithful companions follow Orion across the winter sky, hunting at his side. Now, let's connect 3 of these stars, Betelgeuse and Orion, Sirius and Canis Major, and Procyon and Canis Minor. Drawing lines between them, you create the winter triangle, one of the great asterisms of the season. It's large, bright, and easy to find, a perfect marker in winter nights. Facing Orion, we find Taurus the bull. See this V-shaped pattern? This is the Hyades cluster forming the bull's face. The Hyades are one of the nearest open star clusters to Earth. In cosmic terms, these stars are practically our neighbors. At one corner of the V glows Aldebaran. It may look like it's part of the cluster, but it's actually much closer to us. On the back of Taurus, we find a tiny cluster of stars. This is the Pleiades. In Japan, this is known as Subaru. On a clear night, you can see 6 or 7 stars with the naked eye. Through a telescope or even a good pair of binoculars, this cluster bursts into dozens of brilliant blue-white stars. Moving upward from Taurus, we come to Auriga, the charioteer. Auriga forms a rough pentagon shape in the sky. It's not as immediately obvious as Orion, but once you see it, it's easy to recognize. Auriga is marked by the bright star Capella. Capella appears as a single star to our eyes, but it's actually a quadruple star system organized in 2 binary pairs. Heading slightly to the east, we come across the Gemini twins. Gemini is marked by the 2 bright star Castor and Pollux. We call them the twins, but Castor holds a bit of a secret. Through a small telescope, you can see that it's two stars orbiting each other. But modern astronomy has revealed something even more surprising. Castor isn't two stars, it isn't even three. It's a system of 6 stars. So one of the twins turns out to be 6. Pollux, meanwhile, is a single giant star and hosts at least one confirmed exoplanet. What looks simple to our eyes often turns out to be a beautifully complex system. As Gemini drifts westward over the coming weeks, it too will follow Orion towards the horizon, making room for the constellations of spring. Now, if we take a step back and look at the bigger picture, the bright stars we've just visited form something even larger. If we connect Rigel in Orion, Aldebaran in Taurus, Capella in Auriga, Pollux in Gemini, Procyon in Canis Minor, and Sirius in Canis Major, we trace out a vast shape in the sky known as the Winter Diamond. It's enormous, much larger than the Winter Triangle, stretching across much of the southern and eastern sky. Running through Orion and Taurus, you may notice a faint misty band of light stretching across the sky. This is the Milky Way. In winter, that band appears softer and fainter than it does in summer. During summer nights, we're looking inward, toward the dense central regions of our galaxy, crowded with stars, gas, and dust. But on winter evenings, we're facing outward, towards the quieter, thinner, outer spiral arms. The sky looks more open, but even that faint glow contains billions of stars. Before we move fully into the rising constellations of spring, let's take a moment to notice a few other figures watching over us tonight. Looking northward, we come across a distinctive W shape. This is Cassiopeia, the mother of Andromeda in Greek mythology. In the myth, Cassiopeia was known for her vanity. She boasted that she and her daughter were more beautiful than Nereids, the sea nymphs. This angered Poseidon, who placed her in the sky as punishment, forever circling the North Celestial Pole on her throne, spending half of her time clinging to it so she does not fall off. Continuing northward, you'll find a small, fainter, dipper-shaped pattern. This is the Little Dipper, an asterism within the constellation Ursa Minor, the Lesser Bear. At the end of its handle shines Polaris, the North Star. Polaris isn't the brightest star in the sky, but it holds a special place. It lies almost directly above Earth's rotational axis, meaning it barely moves while the rest of the sky turns around it. If you watch the stars over the course of a night, they appear to circle Polaris like a great celestial clock. For centuries, Polaris has guided travelers, sailors, and explorers, a fixed point in a turning world. Now, moving back down between Gemini and Canis Minor, there's a relatively dim patch of the sky. Here lies Cancer the Crab. Cancer is one of the zodiac constellations, meaning the sun, moon, and planets pass through it over the course of the year. It's not particularly bright or dramatic. In fact, it can be difficult to see from light-polluted areas. It also appears to be missing a leg. Looks like someone had a nice snack. Using a good pair of optics, you may notice a faint hazy patch. That is the Beehive Cluster, a nearby open cluster of stars. As the winter sky drifts westward, let's turn towards the east and into the stars of spring. Leading the way into spring is Leo the Lion. Look for a sickle or a question mark shape. This is Leo's head. Follow the curve downward and you'll arrive at a bright star marking the lion's heart, Regulus. The name Regulus means little king, and has long been considered a royal star in many cultures. Astronomically, Regulus lies almost exactly on the ecliptic. Occasionally, the moon passes in front of it in an event called an occultation. Leo is one of the heralds of spring. When the lion rises, it signals that winter is nearly over. Heading further eastward, we come across a bright red star rising into the spring sky. That star is Arcturus. Arcturus marks the lower part of the constellation Bootes, the herdsman. Bootes forms a large kite-shaped pattern in the sky. Arcturus is one of the fastest moving bright stars in our sky. It's traveling through the galaxy at tremendous speed. So fast that over tens of thousands of years, its position noticeably shifts against the background stars. In fact, long ago, Arcturus was not part of the familiar spring sky at all. Tens of thousands of years from now, it will also have moved on. At 37 light years away, it appears to us as a calm, steady light in the night. Spring often feels gentle and unhurried, but overhead, Arcturus reminds us that the galaxy itself is in constant motion. South of Arcturus, you'll find another bright star shining with a cool bluish-white light, Spica. Spica belongs to the constellation Virgo the Maiden. Virgo is one of the largest constellations in the sky, though its stars are more spread out and subtle compared to the bold patterns of winter. Spica helps anchor it, marking what is traditionally described as a sheaf of wheat held in the maiden's hand. In fact, the name Spica comes from the Latin word ear of grain. Astronomically, Spica is not a single star, but a close binary system. The stars orbit so closely that their shapes are distorted by each other's gravity and they circle one another in just a few days. When we look in the direction of Virgo, we are looking away from the crowded band of the Milky Way and out into intergalactic space. Hidden in this region are thousands of distant galaxies, including the Great Virgo Cluster, tens of millions of light years away. Winter showed us bright nearby stars. Spring begins to show us the universe beyond our galaxy. Connecting the three bright stars of the spring sky, Regulus in Leo, Arcturus in Bootes, Spica in Virgo, we form the asterism known as the Spring Triangle. Before we leave the spring constellations, there's one more figure we can't ignore. High in the northern sky is Ursa Major, the Greater Bear. Like Ursa Minor, it contains a very recognizable asterism. 7 bright stars form the shape we call the Big Dipper. The Dipper isn't the whole constellation, it's just a part of the bear, but it's one of the most famous patterns in the entire sky. In spring evenings, the Big Dipper stands high overhead, almost as if it's pouring its contents down towards the horizon. It also gives us a guide. If you follow the curve of the Dipper's handle, it leads you to Arcturus. Continue that same curve further and you arrive at Spica. Arc to Arcturus, spike to Spica. With just one sweeping motion across the sky, the Big Dipper connects us to 2 of the bright stars of spring. The sky, once you learn its patterns, begins to feel less random and more like a map. Before we close tonight, let's take a look at some of the notable astronomical events happening this month. On the 2nd, we have the Occultation of Regulus, where the moon briefly passes in front of the bright star, hiding it from view. This occultation will be visible from most of Japan, except from places south of southern Kyushu. Occultations are fascinating because they remind us that the sky is three-dimensional. Stars and the moon aren't fixed on a flat backdrop, but move in real time relative to each other. On the 3rd, we have a total lunar eclipse, a皆既月食, where the moon enters the shadow of the earth. The sequence begins around 6:50, and by around 8 o'clock, the entire moon will be within Earth's shadow, turning a deep coppery red. The eclipse then continues until about 10:30. If the skies are clear, people across Japan should be able to see this beautiful event. And this year, the eclipse happens to fall on a special evening, Hinamatsuri or Doll's Day. Hinamatsuri is a day to wish for the health and happiness of young girls. Families display ornamental dolls representing the imperial court and pray for growth, harmony, and bright futures. The last time all of Japan could see a total lunar eclipse was September of 2025, and the next one visible from all of Japan won't be until January 2029. And that one will begin around midnight of the new year. On the 11th, Jupiter reaches a stationary point. This means that from our perspective on Earth, Jupiter appears to stop its normal eastward motion against the stars before changing direction. It's part of the planet's retrograde cycle, and a useful date for tracking Jupiter's movement throughout March. On the 17th, we enter Higang, the start of the spring equinoctial week, a traditional time in Japan associated with balance, remembrance, and the coming of spring. On the 19th, we have a new moon, a perfect time for deep sky observations. The 20th is the vernal or spring equinox. This is the moment when the sun crosses the celestial equator and day and night are nearly equal. Here in Japan, this is also the time when sakura may begin to bloom in the warmer southern regions. On this same day, Mercury reaches its stationary point, and we have a conjunction of a very slim moon and Venus shortly after sunset, low in the western sky. Because Venus will set about an hour after sunset, this pairing will be fleeting, so an open horizon really helps. Finally, on the 26th, about an hour after sunset, look up towards the zenith. The half moon and Jupiter will be in conjunction. The pairing will be visible until around midnight when Jupiter finally sets. So tonight, we stand at a crossroads in the sky. Behind us, the brilliant constellations of winter, Orion, Taurus, Canis Major. Ahead of us, the quiet rising constellations of spring, Leo, Virgo, and Bootes. If you look carefully over the next few evenings, you'll actually see this shift happening night by night. The winter stars get a little earlier, spring climbs a little higher. It's subtle, but the sky is always in motion. Even when our days feel busy or uncertain, above us, the seasons keep their quiet rhythm. Soon, the evenings won't feel quite so cold. Somewhere to the south, the first sakura will begin to open. As the blossoms return to earth, the spring triangle returns to the sky. As the sky brightens and the new day begins, I'd like to thank you for spending this moment with me. Rest easy, and I wish you all clear skies and calm nights.